Well, that was so worth it, wasn't it? I don't know what happened the first time. That was crazy. Welcome, everyone. Happy New Year to everyone that hasn't been going or seen the pre-show. If you can, guys, I'd love it if you could give me some thumbs up. It does make people watch the show. Remember, I'm unsponsored, so it does make a difference to my show. Posted a video yesterday. If you haven't seen so now maximum volume, I love it. I must redo that and turn the volume down a little bit. All right, let's go to news story anyway. I'm going to come here so then you don't have to look at me because I'm only tiny. I'll keep going. Hopefully it sounds perfect. Could be the connection. Yeah, it might be. So let's go into this Matt Granger story. 28. So it's 29. All right, so let's talk about this. At least now, if I'm out of sync, you're only going to see me really small. What's he say? Did you catch the camera conspiracy? Shout out to you in his last video. It was pretty funny. No, I'll have to watch it. I only watched part of one. I think I'll have to have a look at that and see. He's great. Casey's amazing, though. He's so funny. Now, I noticed that Matt Granger put out a video yesterday, I think. The video's also become very pixelated. It must be YouTube, I think. What's it saying is the health? Yeah, it's saying... Oh, hang on. No, it's saying the health is good. Who knows? It must be a YouTube thing. No, it is an extremely hot day today, though, guys. So perhaps they're having power issues or something or whatever. So, yeah, just Victor Y said, I closed my eyes and the sync problem is resolved. I love it. All right, so Matt Granger put out this video about the truth, Sony the truth. Basically, what he's saying is that he's gone back to Sony. Well, he's not gone back. Oh, it's good now. Oh, that's video. Okay. He's saying that that he's now believes they've fixed most of the things with Sony, apart from two things that I'll discuss in a minute. And I remember a while ago that he put out a video saying how bad Sony Pro support was. And I think at the time it was bad, but then I also said he wasn't in Sony Pro support, and that was the issue. That he had terrible service and things like that. And I did put a comment in his video that he discussed about that to say, you're wrong, Matt. If you're in Sony Pro support, the Pro support is amazing. And never mind, it's good now video. Yeah, I don't know whether the sync is probably still out. But there are some things which I agree with what he said. I mean, there was an overheating problem, and now that's basically been fixed. It's no longer an issue anymore. There was another thing that he discussed, which was the battery. That obviously has also been fixed now as well. Video is fine and audio is clear. It's just out of sync, yeah. Don't know why. So there are two things that he said was fixed with it. One of the things that he said... He said he loved the autofocus now and things like that. And the ergonomics now have been fixed. If you're talking about, say, the A9 II or the A7R3, the ergonomics now is fantastic. I mean, if you do like that bigger feel and the bigger buttons and everything else, Sony have certainly fixed all of that side on their cameras. So that's the thing about that. So I understand what he's saying in that regard. But, you know, the funny thing is, after using the Sony A9 II and the A9, because I've got fairly small hands, I prefer the feel of the A9, the original A9. But I have to admit the buttons are way better on the A7R or the A9 II. Like, all your buttons are much more sort of... they stick out a lot more and they're easy to feel. They're bigger and much more tactile. That side of it is way better. But I prefer the grip on the original A9, but if you have got more larger hands, I can certainly understand that you like the grip of the Sony A7 R4 and also the A9 II. So I think they have fixed all those ergonomics. The things that he complained about were really interesting because he did, like I said, he talked about Sony Pro support, and I really think that as long as you're in Sony Pro support, and he said that Sony was third, I think, behind Canon and Nikon, and I disagree with that. Now, I can only talk from an Australian perspective, and I am an MPS member. So I am still an MPS member from when I was shooting all Nikon and everything else. And I've found that the Sony Pro support is the best support that I've ever seen or used for any brand of anything. I mean, I'm talking about TVs getting fixed, stereos, cars, whatever. I've never, ever seen a support system like what Sony has here in Australia. Now, obviously, you guys can tell me what pro support's like if you're in America or other places, but here in Australia, whenever I need to use them, I just email them to book the job in. You can call them too if you like, but I email them to book the job in. And then basically they'll contact me within probably half an hour, and they send me information out to contact a local courier. I call that courier, and then they come and pick up that package that day. Now, it's then sent to South Australia, which is an overnight shipping, because although I think now you can also do it local too, but I like it to just get picked up. It's easy for me. So they come to my door and they pick up the package up, and then they send it overnight to South Australia, which is an overnight shipping, and then they call me or email me to let me know what was wrong with the camera. You get priority support when you go there. They'll keep you updated to what's going wrong. If there's an issue with the camera and they can't get it back to you within that 3 to 5 day timeline, they'll send you a replacement lone camera or whatever lone lens to use in that time. And I've found that it is unbelievable. Like I've said, it's absolutely amazing, and it certainly is the best support that I've ever had with anything. Now, like I said, I can't talk about how it is in the US and Canada, and you guys can only comment down below and let me know how that is over there, but it's amazing. And at the time when Matt made that comment, he was in Australia at that time, so I said to him that your comment is wrong. You should be in Sony Pro Support, not basing it on sending your camera just as a warranty replacement, which is bad for everyone. So anyway, I just wanted to talk about that aspect of it. The other thing which I thought was really bizarre was how he sort of had to go about the influencers when he is one himself. I thought that was a little bit strange because he didn't mention about what the problem was with how Sony dealt with influencers. And I've had issues with it too sometimes. I mean, I understand in some ways what he might be saying is he may be saying that some of the influencers that are used aren't photographers. And I've discussed that with you before, that I think they could tie themselves more to photographers and real working pros like Nikon and Canon tend to. Nikon particularly do use working pros. You know, like they'll use people like Jerry Guionis and all that. Like all their ambassadors or whatever are amazing photographers. The same with Canon. And I think sometimes Sony may use more sort of Instagram followers that have massive followings on Instagram and stuff like that. And you know who I'm talking about. That may not be photographers, but that's just what Sony are doing, and it may be, obviously it's working for them because they're doing well, but I don't like it, and that's one of the things that I don't like. So it was an interesting discussion. Like I said, I'll put this video down below so that you can have a look at that. Like all the links will be down below as well. Am I still out of sync, guys? If I come back to here, am I still out of sync? Because it may be just a YouTube thing. Just let me know if it is still really out of sync. But you know, look, I found sometimes Matt's comments, particularly I don't mind Matt. I mean, he's a fellow Aussie. The thing is, I don't mind him as a person. I think he's quite nice, but he just shoots himself in the foot a few times by doing stupid things like that leaf, you know, where he was getting the leaf in focus and he was using the wrong focusing modes and things like that. Like, I think before some of these reviewers review the gear, they should read the manual and have used the gear for a while before they make a comment about how things happen. Because some of his videos are, it's out. Some of his, I'll go back to the small one. Some of his videos are really flawed. And I think when I say flawed, I think like Photomix says, I think Matt is a little annoyed with all the YouTube camps and Instagram kids that they use to promote their gear. It's a smart idea, but it's a little off-putting us real workshop pros. He's saying that here. It's down the bottom here. He said, I think Matt is a little annoyed with all the YouTube camps and Instagram kids that they use to promote their gear. It's a smart idea, but it is a little off-putting for us real working pros. And I agree with that, Ike. I mean, like I said, I think that, companies, when you're particularly dealing with cameras, they should be photographers. It's like I'm also a musician. I mean, I was in bands for years. I've done lots of recordings and things like that. And I would believe if you are promoting a guitar, you should be a musician. And that's what I'm saying. I don't think, I don't want to name people, but I wouldn't want to see someone that is trying to promote a guitar that can't even basically use the strings. Or play any music or play the guitar. But for some reason, some of these companies are tending to do that. They're tending to do that a lot, and Sony do that a little bit with their Instagram people and stuff like that, the people that they send to some of these camps and all this sort of stuff, whereas they could use real photographers. But anyway, that's my opinion there. This is again why I'm not sponsored by Sony. But anyway, but apart from that, I mean, they're obviously doing very, very well with what they're doing. But like I said, I think Matt just shoots himself in the foot sometimes. He says things without even really trying the camera out or knowing how to use it. And it's so blatantly obvious that I think he had an agenda originally with Sony. But I'm just wondering whether, and this is a bit, but I'm just wondering whether Nikon is not doing that well now. Is he going to be jumping ship to Sony? And I'm just wondering, let's stay tuned and see what happens. I'd love to know your opinion, there anyway. But it's interesting. It was an interesting comment. All right, so let's go to the next story. I'm going to keep it small because I'm so out of sync that I don't want to stay with it like that too big. 2818, what are we now? I'll just say 40 seconds. 40. All right, so next story is this. 2000. This is interesting because I wanted to go through these articles about what's happened in 2019. These are the most read articles on Sony Alpha rumors. So I'd love to know. Actually, let me just go to the chat. Excuse the out of sync, guys. Just ignore my out of sync. It may fix up later on. It'll be interesting to see. I just want to read the chat through here. So just ignore me and just go to the chat. What else have we got? A lot of people are saying Happy New Year. Thanks so much. Bruce says Happy New Year as well. Mike did. Prashant, Prashant, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, also said Happy New Year. Gerald says Sony Pro support has been amazing for me, even better than Nikon. Yeah, so Gerald says his Pro support is really good. But then I noticed, I think Casper said the Pro support was garbage. So who knows? Can you let me know in the chat whether you think it's good or bad? Gerald said in the USA it's amazing. I get immediate action within an hour. Casper said just got back from New Mexico with my new 38-foot RV. Woohoo! That'd be fantastic, Casper. Nothing happens within an hour in Perth, Australia. You're a long way away off. That's probably why. Gerald said 3-day turnaround from me to the repair shop fixed and back to me in USA Sony Pro support. Yeah, so 3-day turnaround is pretty good. And like I said, we get them back within 3 to 5 days usually. Chris Turner convinced me to get the new Sony 35 1.8. Yeah, it's a great lens. That's a really sharp lens, that. Michael, you need this. I'm not sure what that meant. People like Jared, Poland, Matt Granger, TNC are all content creators. They don't depend on real clients to pay the bills. Well, their client is Squarespace, I guess. Yeah, I mean that is a thing too, isn't it? Like I know Ike and like myself, we're full-time working photographers, and we do YouTube at the same time. I know a lot of YouTubers out there are full-time YouTubers, and they're not paying clients. And that does make things completely different for them. Is the audio still out of sync? Is it still the same? It seemed weird how it swapped when I went to that other camera. All right, so let's go anyway. Patrick said, yeah, I'm a photojournalist as well. I've never met Jared and didn't say anything about his work. He does pretty well at portraiture, but I've never been impressed with any of his sports work. And that's about it. All right, let's go back to the stories anyway. Tell me if the audio is any better or it still sucks. So let's go back to this top 10. Because it's interesting, because these are what they're saying about the things that, over the year that they're predicting. So we're going to see what sort of come true and what has been bad or not true. So they're saying, and these are all the images that Sony Alpha rumors came out, and it's just said the first image of 4 new Tamron lenses. Well, we know that came true. Yeah, it's still out of sync. I don't know what's going on. And we know that now Tamron has released those lenses. I've got two of them. I've got two of them here that I'm testing. I've got the 35 and the 24, so stay tuned for that review. I will get the 70 to 180 whenever that is available, so stay tuned for that when that's available. And I'd also love to try the 20mm as well. I'm sure I'll get that eventually as well. They're saying the Sony 35 1.8 is officially released, and people were saying, I think it was Langston said he got that, I think, before, or Altric, I can't remember. That's an amazing lens, incredibly sharp, and we know that's released now. Tamron were correct with the 17 to 28 rumours that came out as well. I'm just coming down here. Completely wrong with the SR3 for Sony A7S II successor. Nothing like that has even happened. So we're still waiting on that to happen. Who knows when that will, or if it will. But they are still saying there that it's interesting. They're saying that it's 4K 120p. So that was really interesting as well. Down here, they're saying Sony will announce a new A6400. They were correct in saying it would have that classic A6, whatever classic design, which it has, and with a selfie screen. So they were correct with that. The SR5 was the first leaked image of the Sony A9 II flagship camera as well. They're also saying here, reliable source that Sony plans to launch the A9 in September, so they were pretty good on that one. And also here, leaked images and specs of the new Sony A6100 and the A6600 and the 16 to 55 2.8 and the 70 to 350mm lenses. So it looks like they were pretty good overall. They have been completely wrong all along about the Sony A7S III. Who knows what's going to come out on that? I still believe, and there was rumours on the 6th, I think Sony were doing something, weren't they, at CES or something, or whatever. I still think we may see the A7 IV announced before we see the A7S III. I still think that is probably a possibility. I think we'll get that first. And I think it will be, if it's not CES, it may be WPPI. Remember, we've got WPPI, which I'll be at. I'd love that to happen while I'm there. It may be that it's released there instead of CES, because CES is not really camera related. It's got camera stuff, but it's not usually a camera show, whereas WPPI is. So it may be also there. So I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see an A7 IV at CES. I've got a good feeling that it might be WPPI. So stay tuned. And I think after that's released, sometime after that, if the A7 IV is released, it probably will still be a couple of months away until we get the A7S III. They won't release two of those cameras at a similar time. I still, who knows? We may get blown away by the A7 IV being an incredible camera that's released, that has all of these things that we need, and they may not release an A7S III. We don't know. There's no reason why. Just remember, when the Sony A7 III was released, there was nothing that could compete with it. Nothing at all that could compete with it. So if that happens, they may do the same thing again and, fix that. Actually, I wonder if I can plug in a headset in there. I'm just trying to think whether I can do. I'd have to go and get something else. No, I'll leave it, I think. I'd have to play around with it. I think it was just when I switched over, wasn't it, that problem came up. I think I'll just leave it. You'll have to just bear with me being out of sync. I would not be surprised if the A7 IV is a higher megapixel camera, and we also get potentially 4K 60 in that camera. I would not be surprised at all. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. Let me know whether you think that is a possibility. I think the days of wanting ridiculously high ISO is no longer relevant. And the reason why I'm saying that is because you can shoot anything now with the A7 III, with the A7R4, with the A9. If you're talking about video, you can go up to ridiculous lengths, almost shooting in the dark and still get very, very good quality results. So I think the days where we probably need much better low light ISO are not really there anymore. So, it's going to be interesting. So I suppose what they could do is they may offer something like, in the A7 IV, it could offer something like a higher megapixel camera. They could offer 4K 60 and give us that for a short period of time. Like I said, I'd be happy to get 2 to 3 minutes. with that, because most of my shots are 10 seconds, 10 to 15 seconds. So I'd be happy with that. And then perhaps they will give us an A7 III with, say, something like the Venice color engine in it, with bigger bit depths, things like that. You know, that even if you have to record to an external unit, you know, like a Ninja V, that probably will be acceptable. So that may be how they make you upgrade from, say, an A7 IV to the A7S III. That might be the camera that has like the Venice color science in it, and the big, you know, the much bigger bit depths, like 400 megabits per second, and potentially 4K 120, whereas the A7 IV may be 4K 60. So it's going to be interesting, yeah, and also 10-bit too. That may also be limited on the A7 S3 as well. But, you know, I just think it's an interesting scenario, and I'm not sure yet which way it goes. Sure, Siri. I would not be surprised at all if the Sony A7 IV is another camera that blows everything out of the water, as they did with the A7 III. So stay tuned for that, and I think it's going to be very, very interesting to see what happens in the near future. But I think this is going to be a really big year for Sony. I think they're going to be releasing some amazing things, and I think the A7 IV is going to be probably the one to get. So stay tuned for that. Let's go on to the next story. 330. This is just a short one. I don't want to go into this too long because it's just a new sensor that's been developed. They presented a new 3-layer organic sensor. Now, I'm not going to go through the whole thing because I'm not a tech head, but some of you may be. So I'll share this in the comment box down below so that you can have a look and read all about it. But the interesting thing I wanted to discuss here is this, that Sony is working on both global shutter and 3-layer solutions. The technologies would allow quite a big leap in terms of image quality on the alpha cameras. So we are waiting on, you know, having some amazing sensors that are going to be released shortly. I think that's the main thing. Apart from probably the A7R4, which had that massive jump in specs, apart from that, there hasn't really been much development in the sensor side apart from the A9. So, you know, I think that the next leap is going to be the global shutter, or that perhaps this 3-layered sensor. This may be what people are waiting for, or Sony's waiting for, before they release their next cameras. You know, it might just be that Sony want to do something and release a global shutter as their next camera. Who knows what might be released next? I mean, if you look at what's happened with sensors over the last few months, or years even, the dynamic range hasn't really changed that much. It's sort of been very, very similar for the last few generational of the cameras. Apart from, like I said, the sensor in the A9, all the other sensors that are in the Sony cameras are very, very similar in dynamic range. They've made, yes, little tweaks. They've made little tweaks with color science, like I showed in the video the other day with the A9 IIs against the A9, that the A9 II definitely has better color science than what the A9 has. It doesn't matter to me because I could match that in 2 seconds in Lightroom or Photoshop anyway, so I'm not worried about that. But if you wanted to shoot straight out of camera like sports shooters do, where they have to send the JPEGs off immediately without really any corrections, that's where, say, the A9 II is an advantage. Because it definitely has better color science and tonal gradation in the sensor. So they are making little tweaks all the time, but there's been nothing. There's been nothing that's sort of evolutionary or revolutionary, I should say, in the sensors. So perhaps they may be about to change that with these new sensors that are coming out shortly. Let's go to the next one. Like I said, I'll put that down below so you can have a read of that. Now we're going to go into the Tamron, the pricing of it. 57. All right, so the last story before we open up to Q&A, where I'm going to drive you nuts because of my lip thing being out of sync. I don't know whether this is a rumor or not, because I don't think anyone really knows yet, but there was apparently an advertisement in the Euro. Are they saying where it was? It just says the euro. So it was just noted in euro. And in euro, it was noted as $1,149. This is for the Tamron 70 to 180. So they're saying it was going to cost 1,150 euro. But what is interesting about that, and it says down here that if indeed this is the price, it's half of what the 70 to 200 GM costs. So this is really interesting. Now, I can't wait to try this out to see how it is, like to try the 70 to 180 to see how good that lens is. But that 70 to 180 really interests me because of the size. I love that size and having the 67mm filter thread through the whole lot, because it means if I'm shooting video and stuff like that, I only really need one set of ND filters and things like that, and it keeps the lens nice and light and small as well, which is fantastic. I'm not worried about losing that extra 20mm at the end. I'm quite comfortable with that. But this lens certainly does interest me. But like I said, I'll test it when I get it. At the moment, I've got the 70 to 200 GM, and it's a lovely lens. I'm using that at the moment. I should try. I've got to send it back in another couple of weeks. So I should try and do a test with the 70 to 200 f4 and the 70 to 200 2.8 to just see what differences there are between the two of those lenses, because I love my 70 to 200 as well, the f4. But I hardly use it anymore, and this is the thing for me about, I'm even thinking about this because I love the 135 so much that I don't like to take the 135mm off my camera. So, it's at the moment, I could almost probably sell my 70 to 200 f4 because I'm hardly using it, but Kerry loves to use that in weddings, so that's probably the reason why I won't. But she loves to have that focal range between the 70 to 200. The issue is with 135, obviously, is you have to be in enough space to be able to use it. But as a more prime shooter, for me, I would be totally comfortable with, say, having the 24mm, the 85 Batis or the 85, Sony lens, and then the 135, and I could probably get around that and work with just those three lenses. There's just this look about the 135 that I just adore so much. Like Casper says, his 70 to 200 GM is his go-to lens. I know Ben's the same, Casper. Ben, my friend here in Australia, he adores his 70 to 200. He's got the Nikon version, but he loves that as well. I was the same until I got the 135. I used to use the 70 to 200 all the time, and now I very rarely want to put it on. The 135 is just so beautiful that I just don't want to take it off my camera, and that's one of the things with it. But I will test this 70 to 180 from Tamron when I get that, so stay tuned for that. But at that price range, it's great. I mean, if the lens is as good as their other lenses, and I would expect it to be, if it's as good as, say, the 28 to 75, and I think it will probably be, it's going to be an amazing lens, but we'll have to see. So I just thought, anyway, that was just of some interest to you in case if you wanted to get that. All right, so let's go to Q&A now. Sorry, guys, I'm going to be out of sync, but you'll just have to ignore me on my side. I'm just going to open up to Q&A a little bit before we finish for the day. Photomix said 4K 60 10-bit internal, everyone is happy. Yep, exactly. That's what I'd love to get. Langston says also agree unless it gets really video specific, but I don't see them doing that. Are you talking about the A7 III, putting it all in that? What else did we got? Patrick says you can look me up. I'm not sure what that means, but I think a couple are arguing amongst themselves. Creative Film says better low light with slow-mo can definitely be improved. Of course, gets noisy quick with the A7 III, A7 IV. I've found that it's not too... I've found it's pretty good, but I suppose we all like different things. I tend to add light, though. The thing is with me is that if I start to use fairly low light, I'll always then add lighting in. Like I'll throw my Profoto B10 in and light up the subject. If you look at the video that I posted yesterday, the start of that with Kate, when you see it in that really dark environment, she was lit up by the Profoto B10 using the continuous light. So the second I start to go into fairly high ISO, I'll use lighting. But remember, as long as you've got control over your exposure and you're not underexposing, if you nail the exposure, you'd be amazed how high you can go with your ISO. But like I said, we all like different things, Creative Film. So What else have we got? Gerald said, I know they're talking between each other, I think. Casper says, I might drive to Vegas just to show you how it's what? Done, son. Join us, Casper. That'll be a scream. Photomere, that's what Hollywood does, Langston. I'm not sure what's going on with these conversations yet. I'm just keep going down. I'm seeing what people are saying. I'm trying to stay out of the arguments. I don't know who's arguing in here. Let's have a look. Casper said the 70-200 GM is his go-to lens. Like I said, a lot of people do love that. I thought the shirt was a gift. You're talking about this one? It was a gift. Dave sent me this, but he sent me a whole lot of them, and I did give a stack away when I had my 20,000 subscribers. I gave a stack away to the people that came for the celebration. So I have been tempted to do some merch and stick this on some merch and sell it. Do you reckon it'd be a good idea or what? Because I've got the orange ones, black ones. I should do it as merch. You can't get one though. Yeah, it was a gift. But I should do merch, Jerry, and I know. Gerald said, since I got my 135, my 1.8 GM, I've hardly touched my 70-200 2.8 GM. I love that 135, even for sports. Yeah, I love it as well. Don said, I just got my A7 III. What 35 should I get? It's hard now because I don't use them anymore. So I would say, look, Don, I love the 24. That I got rid of my 35 because I love the 24 GM so much. I mean, it depends on what camera you've got. Like, I think the perfect solution to this is if you have the A7R4 or the A7R3, is you get the 24mm, and then when you use it in crop mode, you get your 35. So you're getting both of those lenses from the same lens. So you're getting a 24 and a 35. If it was me and you haven't got the 24, I would get the 24. But yeah, it's hard to say now because, like I said, I haven't been using them. And the only one I had was the 35 1.4, which I loved. But I'm so now into the 24. So yeah, someone in the chat may be able to help that sort of would say what they would prefer. Photomix said, Jared knows how to use a camera and he knows composition. So at his skill level, him being okay is a given. Anyone with half decent skill can be okay with a long lens and action in front of you. Gerald said, Patrick Smith, I'm sure your work is wonderful. No offense meant taken. Oh, I think they were just having a discussion between the two of them. Ricky said, hi. G'day, Ricky. How are you? Chris said, it's interesting to see the debate about the A7S III considering Sony has maintained that the A7S II was not a video camera. It kept claiming that it was a stills camera that people just like to use for video. I think they've changed that thinking though. Yeah, I think they've now woke up that it is a video camera, not a stills camera. Remember when the A7S II came around, that was a long time ago, and in that time, it was just meant to be the low light beast. I think we've got past that stage now. I think we're now talking about things like extra bit depth, 10-bit, and things like that, like, say, shooting 4K 60. I think they've now realised that that's going to be a video camera. And like I said, I think it would be the perfect B camera if you owned one of the, the higher-end Sony cameras, like one of the FS cameras or something like that. The shirt rocks. Thank you so much. Photomix says, Langston, are you coming to WPPI? Patrick said, same here. I've heard of you or heard your name before. You're in the US as well, correct? Oh, he's talking to someone else, I think. Ken said, hey, David, just joined. How are you? Very good, Ken. How are you? Thank you for joining us. Langston said, Photomiac, not only am I going, I rented a suite for some photo shoots. We are, guys, you've got to join us. We are going to have so much fun. You've got free education. Ike's organising a photo walk as well that he discussed with me the other day, which he's having a bus. We've got a car as well that we can take people. We can all go along and go somewhere and just have a great time all together. That's what this is all about, is giving back to you guys. That's the same thing that Ike wants to do as well. He wants to give back to people as well. So we're going to have so much fun. There'll be multiple shoots going on, probably multiple walks, get together for a drink or whatever. Can't wait. Like I said, Aaron's coming now as well. Vadomir said, "Oh, sweet Langston, I need you to be my spokesperson for brand deals for the company so I can get some sponsors. With your voice and my looks, we can make a great team. I love it." That's funny. Aldrich says, "Look at the 135 1.8. Yeah, the 135 1.8 is a nice lens. Yep. What else have we got? There is a reason I work in the sound department. B&B Films. How are you, bro? Do you love your work on IG? I'm not sure. Is that for me or is that someone else? I'm not sure. MJ said, late but here. Hello. Well, hello, MJ. At least you got here. Langston said, anyway, the dates and details are on my Flyball Photography Facebook page with sign-up sheets and everything. Hope you've put us down, Langston, have you? I'm getting my model set up for the shoot on the Sunday of WPPI. Can't wait, Ike. Looking forward to it. Oh, man, I might have to come out early. We're there 3 days before. Yeah, I think it's 3 days before. I think we arrived 3 days before WPPI, and then we stay for the whole of WPPI. So we're there for roughly a week. So, yeah, it should be amazing. Yeah, Gerald also has 2 models as well. So we're going to have that many people we're going to be able to shoot, which will be great because all of us can take turns and stuff like that. We'll help you guys. I'm sure Ike will help you guys. I'll be there to help you guys. Gerald will be there to help you as well. So we'll have stacks of things going on. And it'll be really fun. I just can't wait. It's going to be so much fun. And that's about it. I think we've caught up. So hopefully this syncing will fix itself up on Facebook, on YouTube later on, I hope. Langston says, I have 0 pull apparently. You're talking about being able to get some freebies, are you, from whatever? William said, good night. I have to go to work. Well, I'm signing off now as well anyway. A week is a long time to be in Vegas. Yeah, it is, but you know what? Remember, I'm a tourist. I've only ever been there once in my life, so I also have to give Kerry something. Like we'll have to go out to some night shows and things like that. So we'll have plenty to do, I believe. We're not like you guys that have been there often. So for us, it'll all be new, and there's probably heaps that we can do. I'm just looking forward to it. I can't wait, actually. I think I only have 2 setups. Going to start looking for some talent as well. Langston said as well. All right, guys. Well, that's about it for today. Check out my last video. I did post yesterday the video for my whole year, so you'll be able to go back and have a look at some of my shoots for the whole year. It features all the models that I've worked with, or not all of them, but it features a number of them that I've worked with as well over the year. So check out that. I've still got some things to post from my A9 review, because I did shoot a number of models with the A9 II the other day that I still have to do on YouTube, and I'm going to do it with a bit differently this time, with me just doing a talk over explaining what I was doing at the time. So stay tuned for that to come up in the coming days, so I'll have that up soon. I will have the review up next week of the Tamron lenses, the 35 and the 24, so stay tuned for that. So yeah, and apart from that, obviously there'll be a lot of shoots coming up. Like I said, America is getting very, very close for us now, so we're going to really start upping that up and organising all of that side of things as well. Like I said, you're welcome to join us if you like on any of those shoots. You can follow along, tag along. We'd love to have you along as well if you do want to join us. And it's a great way of getting something cheaper, because normally you have to pay a lot for these sort of workshops. So, you're going to get some free fun out of it, and it's going to be very laid back and, just a lot of fun. Apart from that, guys, I don't know what the score in the cricket is. I'll have to go and check now. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up. Thank you so much for that, Victor. I really appreciate that. Apart from that, guys, I'll see you all soon in the next video. Bye for now.